ending a long running show is a difficult thing. So I'm curious for you, what was the first things you decided on when you decided you wanted to end the story, and what maybe came a little bit later in the process for you?
Yeah, it was important that we end on hope. That's something that I was always insistent upon, even though we live in a cynical world. And it was important that we don't end the series simply to say that Bash and Mags are riding off into the sunset together, because I felt that that would be diminishing his journey to just a romance if we ended it with it. And so the question became how to deliver both a satisfying and emotional conclusion to their relationship arc and have that be somehow a penultimate part of his ending. So so that led to the it's something we had considered all along, but it led to our ability to talk ourselves into having her die, and that way our version of hope was to be with him through a present tense, be with Bash through a present tense trauma and crisis, and be left with the feeling that he was going to be okay, that he had gained the tools to be okay, not that he was just going to shrug off her death in an episode or a week, that he was going to continue to grieve her, but that we had seen him move from all of this fragility and develop an ability to be okay, and then we would feel good about that. And so that was the biggest realization. And then the mechanics surrounding that, having him start out his own shingle essentially as a doctor was reflective of that because it suggests a kind of confidence. If you're clinging to a job, we all need to work and we all need money. But if you're clinging to a job, um, you want the security of that, which is very, very understandable for many and most of us. But if you're willing to say no to a job and bet on yourself, then it suggests a kind of confidence. And even though we're catching him in our ending at the beginning of something, I felt that this confidence speaks of healing and strength and love of oneself. And so if we could end there, that we would end with hope.
Well, selfishly, I'm extremely glad we got Mags for as long as we did. For you as writers, was there ever any conversation about having that death come a little bit earlier in the season and playing out more of his post Mags life on screen? What can you kind of share about that and how that kind of played into how you shaped the end as well?
Yeah, we even talked about ending season three with it. Um, we even talked about that. And then we decided, reflective of what you just said, Marissa, we wanted to spend more time with her too. She's a very fun character to write. She has a lot of energy and a ton of emotion. And Laurence is a delight. And I know that people in my position always say this about the cast, but really she is. She's an extremely talented performer and just a lovely human being who you want to be around. And I didn't want to deprive us of that opportunity to have her be part of the company. Plus, she was part of the company, and I wanted her around as long as possible. And we really did want to stretch it out as long as we could, so we could benefit from her being in Bash's life and from her being in our life for as long as possible.
Well, speaking of Mags in the finale, we got to see her via video footage. And I'm curious for you what the conversation was about how to include her in that final episode, given that you guys have played with reality, with time, with POV, and what kind of led to the video versus anything else.
Yeah, we wanted her to give him permission to believe in himself, which is something that which was something that we played with through the last three episodes. In the episode in which she dies, they don't know that she's going to die, and they're talking about their careers and their lives, and she gives him a vote of confidence. And then in the penultimate episode, we learn that she was the one who figured out that he had saved Dr. Bishop and all those people, and he was afraid of it, and she ratted him out, which he was scared of, but actually opened up this incredible opportunity for him. And so for her to be, the people that we love tend to be the people who remind us to believe in ourselves. We're hard on ourselves and easier on the people around us. And Bash is very hard on himself. And so he trusts her, you know. So if she's saying, probably she's probably said a million times, I believe in you. It's never too late to start again. You should do this. And she also is a living embodiment of that confidence because as flighty as she could be, you know, as a bit of a of a, you know, she could be a dilettante in some ways, but she was also full of belief in herself. And I think he was affected by that in his time knowing her.
Yeah. Well, some of my favorite parts of the finale were the Theo, June, and Bash scenes. What can you share about when you wanted to interject those into the finale and what it meant to have those three core characters together for a different couple different beats in the finale?
Yeah, it was really important for us to somehow injure Theo, because we do this in every finale, and Jim Watson enjoys it. I think he gets his wife breaks up with him in season one, and in season two, he gets in a helicopter crash, and in season three, he gets fired. So it was very important. And so we really enjoyed writing this little shoulder dislocation story for him, uh, from which he emerges with a moment of clarity that he's been searching for something, and the answer is sort of just simply where he started. Theo comes full circle as a character. He begins our series as a family doctor, inheriting a practice from a retiring family doctor, and that's where he ends. But in between, he he got comfortable with the idea. He shed some things, you know, his marriage wasn't working, he got out of it, and he's where he's meant to be. And I think we've seen why as we've got to know him, because he really is amazing with kids, and he really does put them first, and he really works better outside of the structures of a hospital environment. So, and then with June, June decides to stay at York Memorial, which is a big deal because Mags dies and Bash leaves and Theo leaves. And so bringing her back to that in an organic way was very fulfilling for us. And I mean, in a way, maybe one of my highlights of writing on Transplant was writing this long argument that she has with Dr. Novak in front of a room full of appalled residents and nurses and everything, where they just hash it out. And it comes down to her emotional belief in herself like it always does on the show. You know, so we enjoyed that a lot, and we enjoyed ending the Novak and June kind of platonic partnership in what we thought was an emotional way. And then I'll just punctuate that by saying we get a nice little moment with Dash and Theo and June together reflecting on Mags. And I hope that we're left with the feeling that they'll always be friends, that they'll be in each other's lives, even if they're not working together anymore.